You want to know why your old job still influences what you make today? That's what we're going to dive into right now. Hi, my name is Dr. Joe Burns. I am the Money Master. I help people work on their money mindset, money trauma, and the cultural influences of money in their lives. This video today was inspired. I have to give a shout out for a group program that I have that inspired the concept behind what I want to talk about today. And I want to look at really the relationship, because I like to talk about relationships, but the relationship the money has and our past work experience has on what we're making today. And that kind of, just that relationship overall. And here's the thing, as you're watching this, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. We're like, I make a lot of money, I've overcome this, Joe, whatever. No, it just shows up in different ways in your life, right? That's all that really happens. The more money you make, the different ways that the same stuff shows up, but it still shows up. And as we resolve the issues and the trauma and the way we think about it, then it amplifies what it is that our next level will be. So it doesn't matter if you're making $1,000 in your business, if you're making $1 million in your business, the whole concept behind how money works is still the same. So let's dive into this, because this is really kind of a juicy little nugget as far as how money relationships work. Right? Because if we look at it, what you made in a past life, we'll say in past life, right? In your past job and whatever you were doing before, right? Whether it's a package that you sold in your business and you sold it for X amount of money and now you're trying to move it up to a new amount, or if you're trying to get a raise in your job, whatever that increase is that you're looking for, right? What we've done before is going to highly influence what it is we think we can do next. Right? You'll see coaches that still give the same information and you'll see them incrementally increase the product, right? As in the business world, they're going to say, as you have less time, then increase your prices and it's going to start to weed people out. And it will, right? And as you have less time, then you got to kind of figure out what that looks monetarily. And I get that. But let's dive into the mindset, the trauma, and the cultural aspects of why what you got before influences what you're getting today. If we look at mindset, money mindset is going to be around what you think you can get. So you're going to look for evidence of what you've gotten before and what other people are doing. And you're going to find some number in between that you feel comfortable with. So if we do our service-based business and we used to work at a job and we're doing something maybe similar or something brand new, doesn't matter. We're going to look like, hey, these people hired me for X amount of money. And so then now I can charge X amount, right? And that's usually where we'll start. The thing with this one is, and I always got to point out to my clients and people I meet and talk to about this specific one, is when you're looking at entrepreneurship, there's a lot of hidden things that you're usually not aware of. You got to pay your own taxes now. You have to take care of your own health insurance. You have to take care of all these extra things. You might have expenses, right? That's all got to be built into it. The problem is a lot of people will leave the corporate world and go do entrepreneurship and usually take that same skill. And they're not thinking about that. And so the mindset's well, this is what they were paying me before, so I can up it a little bit because that's what I do. And I'm going to charge this new X amount. When in reality, if you actually do the numbers, if you actually look at this information, you're going to find out that you're probably making less than you were making before. And that doesn't feel good when we're working for ourselves. So we have all these other expenses. We're wearing multiple hats, all these things, but we don't think about it in that way. I'm going to challenge you to think about that and actually look at what the real cost should be moving forward. Now let's look at the traumatic parts. So that's emotions, those feelings part. This is my favorite part, because where you were before is definitely going to create a sense of being for you, what you think about yourself, and these things around the money, what it provided for you, opportunities you had, things like this. So when we move away from what we used to do before, we're going to carry with us that sense of accomplishment, that gratitude that other people gave us, right, that we got. And a lot of people aren't aware enough of themselves to feel hey, that stuff should come from me and from the inside. And so we get it from the outside, those accolades that we have. Instead of being a +1 to how we already feel about ourselves, it's going to feel we're still looking for that. So what's going to happen here is a lot of times that's going to influence what we're going to do next and how we interact with people. And that trauma is going to play in for how we move forward. It can play in a way that hey, we only think we can, again, back to pricing, we can only charge so much, or we can only do so much, or maybe it's got to be within a specific wheelhouse of ours to say yes to. Now, I'm not saying being out of integrity, But a lot of times I have clients who have opportunities and like, well, it's not necessarily exactly what I do. I'm like, but can you do it? And does it fit within what you want to be doing? And they're like, well, yeah. I'm like, then you should say yes to the opportunity and figure it out, right? Those emotions are going to come up. We're going to feel overwhelmed and we're going to shut down and stop. Again, being influenced by what? The evidence, back to some mindset stuff, the evidence that we had before. So pay attention to those emotions that come up and see what's stopping you from really going after what you want, whether it's pricing, clients, who you want to like work with next, all those things, because it's going to influence you, right? And the emotions are going to stop us from actually doing what we want to do. They're going to limit our action. So we have to be careful. And now let's look at the cultural piece, right? Cultural comes from family, society, right? The systems that we're part of. And here's another one, right? There's going to be a lot, right? From a cultural perspective of people probably saying you can't do that because they've never been there. So they're going to be like, for you, that's not going to make sense. Especially this comes a lot from family. So we have to check ourselves and do something different because we are different. And just because they don't want to take the risk doesn't mean we can't take the risk. So from a cultural perspective, figure out where you learn that this is all you can do. Is my family saying this? Is a community, they're like societal or religious, it's kind of pressing on that? Which systems are in place, right, that prevent me from taking full advantage of what's going on? Here's a perfect example, right, of where the systemic racism in America plays in. There's a lot of systems that prevent communities of color from really having an easier time getting to where they want to go. Now, it doesn't prevent them from getting there, but it's going to play into it, right? And the trauma and everything associated with that is very real. So we have to look at these different areas to say, which part is impacting me because of past experience? And that's what all an old job is. It's past experience. They gave us some evidence that created some emotions in us that people bought into. So if we can break that down and figure out what part of that is holding me back from what I really want, then you're one step ahead of everybody else. So think about that. Think about how this old past job really influence what I'm doing today and what I think I'm capable of and what I'm doing. And it's going to set you in a way of like actually starting to get what you want, because in the end goal, that's what we're all after, right? So think about that. Drop comments below, and don't forget, please, like if you want the reminders for these videos I do each week, hit subscribe and like so you get notified every time I post. Then you'll get notified. You can come watch them. So if you haven't got any questions, you can also drop them in the comments below. Other than that, we'll catch you later. Bye.